My name's Joe and I'm one of the senior product owners working in the digital team at the Co-operative Bank. So I'm a product owner, so you might ask yourself, what is a product owner? Well, the product owner at the most basic level is the person that is responsible for ensuring that the product or feature that the Scrum team is working on delivers the most value for the end user, whether that be a customer or whether that be a business owner. So they are accountable for ensuring that the team deliver a product that is both useful and valuable to those stakeholders. So how does a product owner do that? Well, the product owner can achieve that by taking on different roles or responsibilities within the team. They may one day start looking at the strategy, so building out the roadmap or working on the vision for the team so that the team knows that they are working on the right things and they're moving in the right direction in terms of that feature or that product. They may also look at market conditions, so look at what competitors are doing, look at the customer's expectations around new features and new products, or they could be acting as the liaison between the business stakeholders, the business owners, the customers, or the end users. They take on all of these responsibilities to ensure that the team is working on the most valuable element and ultimately it delivers value for those end users, whether it be customers or business owners. We've now talked a little bit about the product owner and the role that they play and their responsibilities. So now I thought it'd be useful to see how that fits with the Scrum team model. So how do they interact with the Scrum team and how do they facilitate the work that the Scrum team does? So the first thing that the product owner would work on is really the vision. So they are responsible for ensuring that the vision is clear, and they can do that in a number of ways. One of those ways is to create a product roadmap, and that sets out clearly for the team to understand the direction of travel for the product. So they would work with the business stakeholders, they would work with the product owner teams, so other product owners perhaps, and they would really set out what that looks like and be clear in the goals that they're trying to achieve. And once that is understood, they can then work on the user stories. So the user stories are the thing that the team work against and work through. And when we collect all of those user stories together, they form what's called the product backlog. And the product backlog is really just a list of all of the items that the team will work on. And the responsibility of the product owner here is to ensure that that list is well understood, the details within the user stories are clear, and ultimately that they are prioritised. So the big long list of things that the team need to work on is actually structured and ordered so that everybody knows which things are the most important and which things should be worked on in which order. So once the team have worked through those user stories and have started to build things and started to get momentum up and starting to really build out the different elements of the product or the feature, then the product owner is responsible for deciding if those activities meet the team's definition of done and ultimately whether that product or that feature can then be released. The product owner can make a decision to say that the product is now ready for release, can be issued to customers, to users, to begin making use of it and ultimately delivering some of the value that they're expecting. And really that could be either through user testing, so it could be released to a small customer base to learn from or to gain insight, which then ultimately feeds back into the product backlog for the team to do more work, to improve, to optimize, and that cycle starts again. So the product owner makes sure that the backlog is ordered and those new features, those improvements are top of the list because they're going to deliver the most value first, and then back into the release. So the team have built through the requirements, they're now ready to release that new product, and ultimately the product owner is responsible for ensuring that that is right and it's working as expected. And the other thing that the product owner might do at that point is to run a product demo, so a review session with stakeholders and business owners, people who have an interest in that product and the value that that product will deliver. So the session might be a showcase of the work that the team have done so far, and that's an opportunity for people across the business to give their feedback, to say that's exactly what we expected, or perhaps what have you thought about it this way, or have you thought about we might want this included. And ultimately the product owner is accountable there for saying, yes, that meets with the vision, that meets with the goal that we're trying to achieve, or actually no, we're not going to build that yet, or we don't think that's the right way for us to go with this feature if we're still aiming for the vision or the end goal that we set at the beginning. So to conclude, I just wanted to talk through the points that we've covered. So the product owner ultimately is responsible for defining the vision, so setting out which way the product is going and ensuring that the team are clear on that, so that everybody's going in the right direction and deliver a successful product or feature. Product owner sets the priorities. So we talked about the product backlog being a long list of items to work through, user stories to complete. So the product owner sets the priority for these, so which ones are the most important, and which ones should the team work on first. The other thing we've talked about is that the product owner is the liaison or the point of contact for the team to seek clarification on things, but also to the external and wider business teams, so to collect feedbacks and to collect requirements, to then ultimately feed them into the team if they meet the business vision or the goal that the Scrum team are trying to achieve. They manage the backlog, so they decide what goes into the product backlog, they decide the order, as we've said, and they also ensure that the backlog is well defined, so the user stories or the requirements that are in there are well thought through, the right level of detail is in there, and really understood by the team, so that when they're picked up through the sprint cycle, everybody's clear on what needs to be achieved and can be delivered. And the product owner also oversees the development stages. So that is that the product owner is accountable for saying, yes, that piece of work is done, that requirement's met, we've addressed all of the acceptance criteria that might be in the user story, and we can now say that that is done. It meets our definition of done and is ready to be released, should it form part of the next release candidate. And that leads us on to the final point, and that is the product owner ultimately decides when that feature or that product is ready to be released. So they decide each kind of iteration or each sprint, at the end of each sprint, whether that piece of work is done, whether that is now a shippable product, whether we can put that into the live environment for users to start interacting with, or for customers to start submitting things through, whether it be an application form or whether it be a new service that the team are introducing. Okay, so thank you for your time today, and hopefully speak again soon. Cheers.